5:48 Greatest Hits Radio. Confession time. If you have a confession, you know where to send it. Here's the email. confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. There goes the trolley. So before we get busy, let's grab something from the trolley. What have you selected today, Suze?
A pale ale called Headband from Verdant Brewing. It's 5.5%. And just for you, Matt, it features Mosaic, Citra, Chinook, and Columbus hops.
Chinook.
Oh, well, that's a unique combination, isn't it?
Love it.
And the Citra, very nice.
And the Citra, and the Mosaic.
No idea.
No.
Today's confession comes from Nigel.
Oh.
I would say a 12 certificate does contain outdated school disciplinary ideas.
Okay.
Oh dear.
So I'm in the confessional conglomerate. I write to request your consideration for forgiveness for an outstanding misdemeanour many, many moons ago. Somewhat adversely inspired by your teacher feature, I offer myself to the realm of your Vestal vicardom rather than continue to accept the judgment partaken by the educational elite of the establishment soon to be mentioned. Preamble.
Okay.
The events took place during my final year at St Custard's Middle School as we entered the first summer of the 1980s. As a final year student at St Custard's before making the leap to big school, life was good. Selection exams were behind us and fate would take its course. My peers and I would make the most of any clement weather during breaks by running wild on the grassy slopes of the school grounds, kicking balls, ignoring girls, getting sweaty, and generally being boys.
Yeah.
St Custard's had a giant of a leader, not grand via stature, but of character that cannot be denied, a product of Welsh descendancy. Headmaster Grimes sought his own personal Eisteddfod from every school assembly and would stand on the raised stage before miming masses, whacking the song sheet with his trusty cane in a vain effort to raise volumes that his forefathers would hear away in the valleys. That trusty cane is about to make another appearance.
Oh, is it?
Oh,
On this particular day, we were obviously without a ball or jumpers for goalposts, and the post-canteen dinner hour activity had descended into a general two-sided free-for-all, albeit friendly, with plenty of gambling, as in gambolling, grass stains and general raucousness. St Custard's grounds were on different levels, landscaped beautifully with flat plateaus of sports pitches and the inevitable short, steep graduations leading down to each of the lower levels, finally descending to the nearby canal.
Okay.
Oh, no.
What could possibly happen? The final lower level secured us from the general public, or likely them from us, with a border of chain link fencing of the highest order that only the naughty smokers would breach for the seclusion their habit sought. At the height of our riotous enjoyment, I had somehow managed to launch one of the Baker twins down the bank, and he was hanging unhurt but nevertheless upside down on a section of the fence, secured by the strength of his home-knitted school jumper.
He's thrown him onto the fence.
Credit must be given here to either Ma or Grandma Baker for their stitchery, as young Baker hung like prey of some giant spider. It's the way schooling used to happen.
Yeah.
At the most unfortunate moment for me, before we could free young Baker, a pink dinner lady appeared and inquired who was the guilty offender. And never one to hide from my actions, I stepped forward and was subsequently sent to the headmaster's office to report my actions and await my punishment. My old school punishment. My Billy Bunter, Bash Street Kids, now obviously not allowed kind of punishment.
Oh, that, yes.
This must have been one of the busier days that year, as when Grimes appeared, he took one look at the 12 pupils requiring his consideration and uttered words that I will never forget. I haven't got time to listen to all of your stories, so arrange yourselves, eldest first, and come into my office one at a time. As the second eldest, I took one place to my left. My friend Peason's October birth date made him go first, and I filtered along to accept my fate. This wasn't my first experience of Grimes' trusty cane, as a previous offence of sliding down the banister had earned a smarting 6. This forthcoming second 6 of the best had doubled my tally, and off me and Peason popped, palms a-stinging, for an afternoon's further education. He seems almost to have enjoyed it. It's very strange. And so I put myself before your consideration. I'm not seeking forgiveness from the Baker twin. They were identical and I could never get their names right. He wasn't hurt and we were only playing. I do not seek forgiveness from the pink dinner lady. She was only doing her job, and no doubt I may have been a tiny bit cheeky prior to my sending off. I do not seek forgiveness from Mr. Grimes, nor any other arthritic result he may have been subject to, being rather too keen on Mr. Whippy. I thank him for his leadership qualities and impact understanding of seeking the truth. Very strange. I do, however, seek forgiveness from the youngest of the accused of the dirty dozen and apologise on behalf and hopefully the other 10 who went before him. Had we not have collectively presented ourselves that day for judgment, Grimes may have had time to consider his story on its own merits. Because the poor kid's crime was not of his own making, he was just sent to the headmaster to tell him that his trainers had been stolen.
Right. Okay.
However, because Headmaster Grimes did not inquire of this, he got the same treatment as us miscreants. I'm kind of glad that education doesn't follow these kind of rules anymore.
Yeah.
And that headmasters like Grimes are sort of not around, as far as I'm aware. Outdated, strange behaviour. Sister Susie, what do you say?
Yeah, it is outdated. And I feel like, Nigel can't be held responsible for the head teacher. He should, take ownership of that himself. But what I will say is, essentially, he threw someone on a fence. He threw someone so hard they dangled on a fence. And he may not have been hurt this time, but who knows what could have happened. So for that reason, I'm not going to forgive.
I'm sure Matt is even now thinking, which one of us hasn't hung upside down on a fence?
Yes, I'm going to forgive because, he owned up, didn't he? He owned up straight away when the dinner lady came out, so that's good. And it's not his fault that Grimes has decided to do this collective punishment of not even listening to the evidence. I'm just going to whack everyone different times. But the youngest gone because the trainer's gone missing. That doesn't necessarily being hit with the cane. There's nothing. He's not done anything wrong. So yes, I'm definitely going to forgive.
Okay, slightly hysterical there.
It was a little, wasn't it?
61054. First word is Simon. Just before the news, we had a confession from Nigel. A St Custard special featuring Nigel, Grimes the headmaster, Mr Whippy, and a young lad who just had his trainers stolen. And the people's verdict is in. Here we go.
So Mark in Upper Lighthorn in Warwickshire says, totally forgiven. Surely it's the system at fault here when a headmaster hands out corporal punishment to people who only wanted to report a missing item. John in Belfast agrees, forgiven. As Matt said, it wasn't his fault that the teacher decided to group punish everyone. Whole class punishments never end well. And Bev says, not forgiven. Who throws someone onto a fence? Who does that? In big full caps.
Yes, Bev has got a point.
Yeah, she does, yeah.
So thank you very much indeed for the verdicts. Thank you for your confessions. If you have one, you can send yours to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. 5:47, and might put you in mind for a little bit of a sharpener just before we head into dangerous territory. What have you lined up for us today, Suze?
Well, we're heading to Copenhagen for a blonde ale called Hoppy Blonde from Mikkeller, 4.5%, Columbus, Cascade and Millefru hops.
Excellent. Well, I'll look out for that next time I'm over. Thank you very much indeed. So that's, what's it called again?
Hoppy Blonde.
Hoppy Blonde. Okay, very good. Let's check in with today's confession, which comes from Helen. Okay? And is topical based on all the football that Matt's been talking about today. Yes.
Okay.
Simon, Matt, Holly, Susie and the team, dearly beloved, after hearing a confession this week regarding a dad watching football on CFAX and his 10-month-old baby falling off the bed, and let's not forget breaking her wrist.
That's true. Yeah.
I thought you might like this tale. It's actually my dad's confession, but he is no longer with us, so I am making it on his behalf. My brother and I were brought up as Spurs fans. No, that's not the confession. That's not the confession.
Okay.
That's just the setup.
Perfectly okay, isn't it?
Yeah.
No other option was available to us if we wanted bed and board. As such, we grew up as junior Spurs members and spent many a Saturday afternoon, rarely played on any other day back then, at White Hart Lane. And so it was that on the 16th of May, 1987, we found ourselves at Wembley to play Coventry City.
Of course,
in the FA Cup final. Having arrived at Wembley, we were treated to fish and chips outside the stadium, which is fantastic. However, what, let me ask you, is the worst thing about fish and chips?
I don't think there's anything wrong with fish and chips.
No,
I'm trying to think of anything that there's nothing wrong.
There is, and here it is. I was 14 at the time, and I got a fish bone caught in my throat.
No.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a fish problem.
Yeah.
And it is a really scary thing. My pleas for sympathy were met with comments along the lines of, "Are you sure you're not making it up?"
Okay.
It'll shift. You'll be fine. Don't make a scene. It's getting embarrassing.
Right.
You're imagining it. And so
Don't
on.
make a scene.
So I spent the whole of the first half, says Helen, coughing and struggling with a very sore, scratched throat as the bone simply would not shift itself. Anyone who's had a fishbone stuck will know how scary this is. Clive Allen's opening goal within minutes of the kickoff did not take my mind off things. The Coventry equaliser made it worse. But then Gary Mabbutt put Spurs back in front 5 minutes before half-time, and that eased the pain considerably. However, I was still coughing and spluttering and quite possibly complaining. My mum did suggest perhaps they ought to take me to the St John's ambulance people, but there was no way my dad was going to miss any of the match, even if I was suffering. Thanks, Dad. Half-time came, and perhaps because he was fed up of my coughing and spluttering and complaining, or because he feared a medical emergency occurring in the second half, the gentleman behind us offered me a carton of Ribena. Other blackcurrant drinks obviously are available. I gratefully grabbed the drink from him as I was clearly getting no sympathy from my own parents. Thankfully, to everyone's relief, but particularly mine, drinking said carton of juice did the trick and the bone shifted itself from my throat.
Ah, brilliant.
Nice.
So, says Dad, you actually did have a bone. Well, you should have said. Anyway, second half, calm down. The second half was far more peaceful for all of us. It was peaceful for a very good reason. And it was far more comfortable for me, although Coventry did equalise.
That's true.
Taking the match to extra time when they scored again. And
they did, didn't they?
1-3-2. Moving on, though.
Okay.
The important business. I have forgiven my dad, and the tale is often regaled with friends and family when discussing the importance of football. But I write to publicly apologise to all of those around us on that fateful day, listening to a 14-year-old girl who was convinced she was going to die, choking, coughing and well, you do at 14. I'm going to die. For the entire first half of the match cannot have been much fun, and to thank the wonderful gentleman who saved my life with a carton of Ribena. And I ask for forgiveness from the collective and your dear listeners for my wonderful dad. I'm sure if he thought there was any possibility of me actually dying, he would have taken me to the lovely St John's ambulance people, but not until the end of the match.
No, obviously wait till half-time. And then,
you could just hang around for a bit longer.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remain a lifelong Spurs fan despite being married to a Nottingham Forest fan, and maybe as I've grown up, I too have come to understand the importance of football. But on balance, it wasn't worth the ghastliness of a fishbone, because that is just the worst feeling. Anyway, Helen signs off. Come on, you Spurs. I'm just saying. I am just reading out. I'm just reading out. Look, let me just show it. There you are.
It does say that.
It does say that. So I think definitely forgiven. Very good. Suze, what do you say?
Well, Helen, I really feel for you here. That choking on a fishbone is horrible.
It's the worst.
And you're completely ignored by your parents. And, the poor gentleman behind you was a saint offering you that kind of I can't even believe your dad didn't offer you a drink. I am sorry, I can't forgive your dad because regardless of how important football is to you, whether it's the FA Cup, the World Cup final, or whatever, your child is always more important.
Yes.
And as she said, she could have died. So not forgiven, I'm afraid.
Brother Matthew.
But she didn't die. So, in a way, wasn't the dad right? Wasn't it better to be, concentrating on Clive Allen and Gary Mabbutt and all the rest of them? Yeah, I know, because it all worked out in the end. The Ribena, that did the job, and then there goes the fishbone. And pity about the Gary Mabbutt own goal in extra time. But there you go. That's the way the cookie crumbles, certainly for Spurs. But it was historic, wasn't it, for Coventry winning the FA Cup for the first time?
We don't need that.
Done. So for those reasons, I'm going to forgive.
Okay, all right. Bit of match analysis. A few decades after it was needed.
Yeah.
Forgiveness, please, from Helen. Does she get your forgiveness? 61054 on the... Just before the news. Oh, and the sunset time game as well.
Of course.
Matt needs those points.
Oh, yeah.
We had a confession just before the news from Helen. It was at the cup final, the English FA Cup final of 1987, Spurs against Coventry. And she was given some fish and chips, and the fishbone got stuck in the back of her throat. And she was choking for the entire first half to her parents going, nah, you'll be fine, you're just making it up. Anyway, she was saved by a packet of a nice tub of Ribena, which sorted her out. Okay, the people's verdict, here we go.
Forgiven, says John in Hastings. He was busy watching the game. Fishbones are annoying, but Helen was being a bit over the top. with all that coughing.
Have you got a fishbone
I
there?
think it feels like it. Catherine says, forgiven. As a former member of St John Ambulance, I have first-hand experience of people incurring injuries at big events and missing out on momentous occasions. But if the man had arrived Bina during the first half, why didn't he give it to you earlier? And Gary says,
true.
poor lass suffered, not forgiven, but the bone eventually went down, just like Spurs are now. Sorry, mate. Love the show.
Yeah, well, and that's Gary.
It leads.
Yes, that's right. Well, can I just say, Gary, I'm a Leeds supporter as well, because if they beat West Ham, then everything is going to be fine anyway.
Fine.
So I'm entirely with you. If you have a confession, we would love to have it, please, and you send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Okay, it's confession time, but we can't just go into it with dry throats. No, we need something from the drinks trolley, and fortunately, Susie will have selected something rather fine. What have we got today?
Yeah, well, I think Matt will like the name of this one. Well, I like the name of this one. It's from Glass House Beer Company, and it's a pale ale called Bringing Seshi Back. It's a session IPA at 3.5%. Citra Mosaic and Idaho 7 hops.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
does that help
Seshi
you?
back.
Seshi back.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's Justin Timberlake bringing sexy back, bringing Seshi
Oh,
back.
because I'm massive
Yeah.
into my Justin Timberlake.
You are.
Can't get enough of
Okay,
him.
thanks for that. That's
So
very
good.
good. Right up to that. Okay, so here we go with today's confession, which comes from Rick. Father Simon, this is quite an interesting one, I think. I was age 20. It's the summer of 1994, and I was working at the fairground in Southport Pleasureland for the summer season as a ride operator.
Now, I used to work at, so that's Pleasure Beach in Southport. I used to work there. Not in 94, though. I was a
Okay.
little before then.
Wow.
But, yeah.
So you know this patch very
I
well.
do, very well, yeah.
There was a new expensive ride for the summer season, the Water Boggan, it was called. A giant structure in the centre of the park, which was a large water slide in which the customer would climb a long staircase to the top, sit inside a rubber dinghy. As one of the operators, I would then press a button which would move the dinghy forward on a conveyor belt into a tube down which water was constantly flowing and crashing. The dinghy would slide down the curly tube, and the customer in the dinghy would receive some gentle splashing, just enough to provide a bit of excitement or a mild thrill, which is the same thing, actually. Quite nice on a hot day. It sounds all a little bit Heath Robinson, this, but anyway.
Yeah.
Wow.
While the customer was going down the tube, I would take the next dinghy, which went back up on another conveyor belt, and prepare the next customer for their thrilling ride, being careful not to send them down until I was certain that the previous customer had safely exited the tube and my colleague at ground level had moved the dinghy on upward to the conveyor belt. The dinghy acted as a form of protection, its high sides ensuring that the customer would emerge from the tube mostly protected from the water, other than some mild splashing around the shoulders. I should mention at this point that there was a strict weight limit on the ride.
Okay.
From memory, I think it was around 14 stone. This was clearly signposted on all the stairs. Also, as a responsible ride operator, I would intercept anyone who looked to be a bit heavy, and I would calmly explain that they would be unable to ride for safety reasons.
That's brave.
That's not a good job, is it
I
really?
wouldn't have done that.
So on this particular day, I was in my rhythm, helping the customers into the dinghy, waiting to be certain that the previous customer had popped out of the tube safely, pressing the button to send the new customer down, getting the next dinghy, and so on. And I spied a woman in the queue
Oh, no.
sometime before she reached the front of the quest. I reckon she exceeded the limit comfortably, maybe close to 20 stone.
20 stone.
As a responsible ride operator, I simply had to explain to the lady that it would not be safe for her to go on the ride. It's actually the rules. Yes, as a 20-year-old who would blush if I had to even speak to a member of the opposite sex, I had to explain to this large, drunk, angry lady
Oh, wow.
in front of her friends that despite having spent some time in the queue, I was not going to let her onto the slide. So I considered this in my mind, and I looked again, and I decided, probably she was. It was okay. She was just probably a touch under 14 stone after all, so everything would be okay. So after her friends had ridden first, I helped her into the dinghy, and when it was safe to do so, I pressed the button, and down she went. I helped the next customer into the dinghy and waited for the large lady to emerge from the tube.
I'm calling her a large lady.
And then I waited. And I waited. Waited. Shrugs of shoulders from my colleagues at the bottom who had the responsibility of helping customers out of the dinghy and sending the next dinghy back up. And still we waited. My fears were realised when the dinghy emerged from the tube. However, the fact that it was upside down
Oh, that's a bad sign.
and empty
Dear.
Oh, no.
Empty?
didn't bode well. 30 seconds or so later, the lady emerged from the tube on her bottom, slowly propelling herself along by pressing her hands against the sides of the slide and pushing herself forward. Even though I was at the top of the slide, I could see how bedraggled she had become. She looked completely drenched and absolutely furious. She was having strong words with my colleague, who was equally as frightened as me. He simply pointed up towards me, and the lady glared in my direction. Luckily, she couldn't get back up without buying another ticket, and she wasn't going to do that.
No.
I think she was consoled with some free tickets for other rides another day. I do seek forgiveness from the lady whose day out was ruined by my inability to raise the difficult subject, and for the train ride home, which she'd had to endure in soaking wet clothes. I hope that the four of you, Father Mayo, Matt, Merciful, Monk, and Sisters Holly and Susie, can forgive me for this, although I must admit I did chuckle to myself, and still do, when I remember her slowly dragging herself through the water on her bottom. Thank you very
Wow.
much for all the entertainment that you bring. Okay, but maybe we don't bring as much entertainment as that famous ride, the Water Boggan.
Wow.
At Southport, where Matt used to work. There's probably a plaque there on the...
There is definitely a
Matt
big plaque.
Williams,
Gotta be.
used to work here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, if the rules are very clearly stated, 14 stone and not above that, then is it her fault? I don't know. Is it his fault? What do you say, Susie?
I'm really torn here, Rick, because, you know, I feel like that was your job. That was your only job. And as difficult as that may have been, you maybe should have just had that conversation with the lady. I'm sure if you'd have told her what could have happened, she wouldn't have been bedraggled down the slide, dinghy-less, and at the bottom. And if you'd have saved her that embarrassment, then maybe that would have been a good thing.
But remember,
Also, if
she's described as a drunk, angry-looking scouse lady.
Exactly. If she was drunk, then maybe that should be a reason for her not going on the ride as well. So he should be doing his job. I can see why you wouldn't want to have that conversation. And how can you tell people's weight anyway? I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to forgive him, but
Okay.
I feel sorry for him.
Brother Matthew.
I am definitely going to forgive here. This is obviously the system's fault. Who comes up with a ride where you can't get on if you're too fat? And then you've got to leave that to be enforced by the poor bloke who's in charge, who's only doing it for a summer job. You know, that's not fair at all. He's going to have to go up to people and tell them, you're too large to go on this ride. Goodness me. And also, it was nice and sunny, wasn't it? So she dried off. She'll have
Did she?
dried off. She'll be
Okay.
fine.
That's very nice.
It's fine. And she had a drink anyway, you know, and she saw all the signs and ignored them. So, you know, it's all her fault, really. So for all those reasons, I'm going to forgive.
Okay, all right. Well, it's the people's verdict here. Does Rick get your forgiveness? 61054, first word is Simon. Just before the news, we had Wednesday's confession from Rick. From Southport Pleasureland in 1994, the new ride there, the Water Boggan. There was a 14-stone maximum weight, but he did let a woman go through. I mean, she was a little bit feisty, I do believe, but she was clearly over the limit in both senses, and she didn't make it through, and the dinghy ditched her, basically. And the people's verdict, here we go.
Everyone forgives tonight. Jean says the larger lady wasn't taking no for an answer. This is her fault, not his. Lauren says, forgiven. The ride should be more accommodating to larger people. Why does he have to tell angry customers that they're over the weight limit to go on the ride? That's obviously going to cause upset.
Yes.
And Robin Truro says, forgiven. He did the best he could. When I was out in Tenerife, having got to the front of the queue, they got out a set of scales, which my son thought highly amusing as everyone stood around comparing their weight.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Dee, for all the verdicts. And thank you for the confessions. You can send yours to to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. A confession time. First of all, we need a little sharpener just to get us through. And what do we have today, Suze?
I've gone for a very nice Pilsner, but it's a 0.5%
Nice.
lager lime, which is from Low R, so low alcoholic, and using Centennial hops, Matt.
Oh.
Okay, that'll get us through until Nigel turns up with his chicken and his whiskey. So tonight's confession comes from Flora. Thank you, Flora. Father Simon and the Ecclesiastical Collective, I have for you a classic misdemeanor for which I ask forgiveness. Back in COVID times, my then boyfriend and I, for complicated reasons, got stuck living together.
Oh dear.
We had never intended to live together, but as happened to other people at that time, this was our situation, because you just had to stay where you were.
In your bubble, wasn't it?
Right.
In your bubble.
So that's where Flora was. Let's call my then boyfriend Tom, who was a charming Irishman. And although we hadn't planned to live with each other, everything worked out fine.
Oh, no.
What?
Are we going to get an accent? I really hope we're getting an accent. Anyway,
Tom doesn't speak.
Does he not?
Oh, actually, well, I don't know. Let's find out.
Let's find out. Yeah.
We had a gorgeous but very old dog who we should call Timmy. Tom used to joke that I loved Timmy more than him. And he was right.
Yes.
Because Flora's not stupid.
No.
Yeah.
The time was, of course, very worrying, but there were occasions within lockdown that were quite pleasant. As you probably remember, activities during this time were somewhat limited. Despite our desperate attempts not to, we succumbed to the lure of jigsaws. In the rural area in which we lived, jigsaws became scarce and sought after. A real black market took off in jigsaws. Who would have thought? It's like the Middle Ages. All these jigsaws were exchanged in keeping with COVID rules at the time. It was at this time that I began to see a different side to Tom, the charming Irishman. We happened to be working on a tricky 1,500-piece jigsaw recreating the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, and we're about to complete it when we realised there was one piece missing.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Tom's reaction to the missing piece was, to say the least, disproportionate.
Here it comes.
Something akin to toddler behaviour was displayed, and he all but threw himself on the floor, screaming and kicking.
Wow.
Definitely not the charming Irishman I knew. I have no script. There are no words.
There are no words?
No.
There's no words.
But let's imagine that he said,
Yeah.
I'm really furious. There's a piece missing from my 1,500-piece jigsaw of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon.
In an Irish accent.
Yeah.
In an Irish accent. Anyway, time moved on, COVID ended, and it turned out that there were more uncharming things about Tom, such as him having a second secret girlfriend.
Oh.
What?
Things ended and I moved out. Sadly, circumstances meant I had to leave Timmy behind with Tom. Timmy was the dog, you remember?
Oh.
Yes.
And as you will all recall, I love Timmy far more than this feckless Irishman. Here's said with feeling, I think.
Yeah. No.
So here's the first part of the confession. I retained a key to Tom's house. I know this was wrong, but it was kind of an insurance policy. When I knew Tom was out working and I had the opportunity, I would go round to Tom's house to see Timmy the dog. Just a quick cuddle and a couple of treats, and then I would stealthily leave, and no one but Timmy and I knew, and he wasn't going to tell, and neither was I. One day when I was doing an illicit visit to see Timmy, I noticed that there was a huge, unfinished jigsaw on the dining table. At first I was surprised that Tom still had an interest in this hobby. And yes, Father Simon, you've probably guessed what I did. I took just one piece of the jigsaw, knowing that Tom's reaction would be large and toddleresque, that he would go absolutely ballistic. Apparently, Tom took to social media to vent his disgust at the poor morals of people who sold second-hand jigsaws these days.
Oh, dear.
I was only sad I wasn't there to witness Tom's incandescence firsthand, so I could laugh in his face.
In his face?
Face, wow.
Timmy passed away not long after that. That's Timmy the dog, not Tom the feckless Irishman. So thankfully my visits and my temptations stopped. I threw the key into the sea and never darkened Tom's door again. So I ask forgiveness from you all, not from Tom, though, as a missing piece of jigsaw was the least he deserved. I'll call myself Flora. Okay, I'll call myself Flora. See, it's a tiny, tiny thing. One piece of a jigsaw and breaking into his house, I suppose. But let's see what Sister Susie makes of that.
I was with Flora for so long of this, second secret girlfriend.
Bad.
Yeah.
Just terrible.
Yeah.
But keeping a key to his house, I've got a problem with. Visiting his house when he doesn't know you're there, even though if it's to see the dog that you love,
She's invested.
I don't
She should own
mind
part of it.
that you took the jigsaw piece. Don't care about that. You broke into his house.
Well, I think that's fair enough.
I'm not sure I can forgive you, Flora. I want to.
But you're not going to. All right, Brother Matthew.
So I am going to forgive. Tom does sound like a nightmare, doesn't he? Going on social media to complain about jigsaws, please. But, letting yourself into his house, was that all you were doing there, Flora?
She was visiting the dog.
Visiting the dog. And there have been a few other things going on. But she threw it in the sea, didn't she? Good for her.
It's the key, not the dog.
Threw the key into the sea, not the dog. But the dog is dead, so he's not coming back. Very much a cruel summer for everyone, I think. So I'm going to forgive.
61054, first word is Simon. Thank you. But before the news, we had a confession from Flora and Tom and Timmy the dog, a jigsaw, a missing piece, a tantrum, a secret girlfriend, but it all ended up okay, unless you were Tom the Irishman, also Timmy the dog, who didn't make it through.
No.
But that was nothing to do with anybody. People's verdict is in. Here we go.
Not forgiven, say Jean and Ian. I know he was bad with the second girlfriend, but she literally broke into his house without him knowing. Crazy. But Andy in this says, completely unforgiven on all counts. Breaking into his house, even if it was to cuddle the dog, is bad enough. But I am a keen dissectologist or jigsaw fanatic, and I would have been furious. But Hannah on holiday in Lanzarote says, you have to forgive Flora. I can't believe he had a second girlfriend. Yes. Also, who moans on social media about missing a piece of the jigsaw?
Which is a fair point. Thank you very much indeed for the verdicts, and thank you for your confessions. You can send one. You can send it this weekend to confession@greatesthitsradio.co.uk.